Hello, welcome to the Spurs Give Science of Basketball Courtside Chat. My name is Ricardo Valerdi. I'm with the Science of Sport, and I will be your moderator for today. I want to thank again our sponsors, Frostbank, for making this a possibility, and of course, Spurs Give for allowing us to deploy this program, which is a connection between math, science, and basketball in San Antonio and in Austin. So I want to welcome our guests for today. We have three panelists, and the idea behind today's panel is to give you, the viewers, teachers, students, the general public, a really good idea of the connections between math, science, and basketball. Just a little bit of background on what this program is about. We've deployed a series of STEM lessons that relate to basketball amongst a number of San Antonio and Austin schools. And we know that teachers are out there implementing the program with students. So this is just another feature of the program where we have a chance to show you STEM in action at the Spurs front office. So we're going to be joined here by a few of our guests in just a moment, and you're going to hear more information about what they do in terms of their jobs and how they use STEM every day. So we're going to see them here join in just a little bit. All right, here's our first guest, Josh, Ryan, Leeroy Maguraushe, and David Kaplan. Welcome, gentlemen. How are you doing?
Good.
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Excellent. So let's go around the horn. I'm going to go Josh, David, and Leeroy. That's how you show up here on the screen. And if you could just introduce yourselves, tell us what your title is with the Spurs and just a little bit about what you do in your job. Go ahead, Josh.
Hi, everybody. I'm a senior front-end developer with the Spurs basketball operations. My job is to manage an internal website that we have that holds all of our statistical information on players. My secondary job is data visualization, to take that statistical information and turn it into various charts and graphs that make it easier to comprehend for someone who isn't a straight numbers person.
Excellent. David, tell us what you do.
My title is Senior Data Scientist. I mostly work with modeling and projecting player performance at an NBA level or an amateur level. In addition to that, I kind of help out with the website and some data engineering and some coaching analysis too, kind of the secondary level on that.
Awesome. Leeroy.
Hi, my name's Leeroy. I work as an IT specialist for the Spurs. I mainly help in terms of software and hardware. So people like Josh and David, if they need any equipment, any help with it, I kind of help to maintain it. And if they need any upgrades and maintenance work, that's what I kind of do.
Wonderful. This is great. So we have three people who work in different parts of the Spurs organization, and you're all somehow connected to STEM. So let's unpack that a little bit more. So Josh, if you could relate back to maybe some of the courses you took, either as a high school student or university student, tell us what kind of academic preparation, college degree you have that prepared you for this job, and maybe like an example of a course that you may have taken that prepared you for the job you have.
So my undergraduate is in mathematics, so the M.
Yep.
My master's degree is in geographic information systems, which is related to making maps and handling the data that is around map making. That's how I got into this job specifically. Was I was doing map making, and that has a lot of data visualization involved. But for specifically STEM related courses, my entire undergrad was STEM, and that helps a lot in my programming day to day, just having that basis of information.
Love it. David, how about you? College or high school experience, how did it prepare you for what you have now?
Yeah, I went to undergrad for molecular biology and biological chemistry, which is not anything I really do now. Um, I do think that going through that coursework in the S of the STEM, the sciences, did allow me to develop my critical thinking skills and the ability to approach problems. I did pivot after graduation into more of a computer and mathematical based profession, but I think that the ability to think as in a STEM mindset, it was really helpful and one of the biggest things I probably took away from my college experience.
Wonderful. Leeroy, how about you?
Yeah, so my background is mostly in information systems from an undergrad level, and I'm currently doing my master's in information technology. So for me, in terms of like kind of adding on to what David said in terms of critical thinking, I played professional soccer both in England and in America. So I'm able to kind of understand what David and Josh need in order to do their job correctly, because I know the side of the technology side as well as the player development side and kind of what they need in terms of pushing forward and the kind of technologies that are coming out more over the time that are helping towards that kind of stuff.
Great. So I just wanted to remind the viewers, teachers or students, if you shout out your school, your classroom in the comments, we'd love to hear from you. Maybe there'll be some prizes for those of you who do shout outs in the YouTube live. So we do have a question from one of the teachers. So Josh, I'm going to go to you for this question. It's actually from Frank Halverson from San Antonio ISD. He's a PE coach there, and he wants to know, he's asking this on behalf of his students, how do you find an opportunity to intern for a professional sports team? So Josh, you want to take that one?
I can, I guess, but I didn't do any interns for a professional sports team. I came late to the game. I had an entire other career prior to this one that involved around human rights reporting in overseas. And so I kind of fell backwards into this. So my internship knowledge is very limited.
I can jump in there as a former intern.
Great.
In my career pivot, I was looking for anything and everything that I could in the basketball world, and I think the best thing that I did, and the thing that I consistently tell people looking to get into the internship world is start doing the work. So if you want to be a data visualization like Josh, start pumping out your own data visualizations, and it can be starting very small and then expanding upon that, but being able to show your potential employer that this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I've been doing in my free time, and here are some of the things I'm able to produce, gives them a lot better sense than just having a resume that says I do data visualization. Or on the other side of it, whether it's IT, whether it's coaching or video analysis, just have some kind of work product that you can show that says, here are my abilities. And again, if you're coming from a high school or a college background, we don't expect those to be, the best things we've ever seen. We just want that base that we can help you grow upon. And knowing you have that base is super important.
That's helpful. Love it. Leroy, I'm going to go to you because you mentioned England, and I'm guessing you don't have a Texan accent. So share with the students where you're from and how you ended up in San Antonio.
Yeah, so I'm not from Texas. I'm from England, so I'm from Milton Keynes, which is like West London, just outside of London. And I first came to America because I had a scholarship to study in North Carolina whilst playing soccer beside it. So that's when I first picked up my love for IT. After doing that, I was up for the MLS draft, and then I got drafted. I got signed before the draft to San Antonio FC, which is one of the teams that the Spurs own. whilst playing for them, I interned the IT department whilst playing at the same time. So which gave me a little bit more knowledge on how to cover myself within IT and kind of learn different things from actually inside rather than just the day-to-day school classes. So that's how I kind of came up and now I work here. So it's been a journey for sure.
That's a cool story. Let's talk about computers a little bit more, because I know our students know computers quite well. I mean, they've been using them over the pandemic. They probably have used them to play some video games. But Josh, I'm wondering, what kind of computer programs do you use in your job? And what are some of those programs that your students may have heard of?
So a good chunk of my time is spent in the programming language JavaScript. That's the language that powers most of the internet, at least on the front end side of what you see and interact with on your computer. Another good chunk of my time is spent designing. So I do a lot of the design work for our internal website and for our groups. So I'm using Adobe Illustrator, which is fairly well known. I'm using Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, basically that whole suite of tools. From the open source thing, I'll make a plug for my mapping software, which I actually do use here, is QGIS, which is an open source mapping software program. So that's available for free and can do quite a lot of things, and I use it for some of my work here.
David, same question for you. What are some names that students might be familiar with?
Sure. I think, when everybody talks about data, they hear Excel. And Excel is definitely something that I do use, probably not as frequently as one might expect, because with the size and scope of our data, it actually makes a little bit more sense to manipulate it, whether it's directly from our database, we use Microsoft SQL or any type of SQL, or within kind of our own programming space, which I use a combination of R and Python. R is more of a statistical programming language, and Python is more of a do-it-all, helpful at everything, but not the best at anything type of language. That's great for learning and teaching as well. I can't say that there's a lot of programs that I use outside of that. Most of it is stuff we have built as an organization and utilizing those programs on a day-to-day basis.
Nice. And David, I have a quick joke for you. Do you know what a pirate's favorite software program is?
Oh man, I should. This is one of my favorite joke tropes, but I can't think of it.
It's R.
Oh man, I should have thought of that.
Thank you for laughing at that. Leeroy, computers. You're dealing with computers all day long. So what kinds of things have students might be familiar with that you work with?
Yeah, so the fun thing about my job is I kind of deal with everything, from mainly the business side and helping through the basketball side as well. So anything from PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Outlook, whatever people need help with, that's kind of where I'm at. So even Adobe in terms of Illustrator, Photoshop, we kind of just cover all the bases. That's what my job entails. I kind of have to know how to operate within every single place in order to be able to maintain it and help troubleshoot as well.
Good, great. All right, let's lighten it up a bit here. Let's loosen this up. Tell us about your favorite food and whether you own a pet or not. So, Josh, you go first. Food and pets.
Favorite food. I'm going to go with a little bit exotic because I can. I spent several years in Thailand, so my favorite food from there is khao soi. It's kind of a northern Thai specialty soup made out of coconut. And I do not own any pets at the moment.
Awesome. Love Thai food. David.
I'm an ice cream guy through and through. I'll eat just about any type of ice cream I can, anytime and any place, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Uh, I do have one pet whom I actually named after a Spurs player. Her name is Lonnie Barker the Fourth, after our own player Lonnie Walker the Fourth. So I'm very proud of that.
Pretty cool. What sort of animal is
She's a dog.
Lonnie? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So if she makes an appearance, let us know.
She is hidden away right now because
Okay.
she'd probably be making too many appearances.
That's probably smart. Okay. Leeroy, how about you? Food, pets?
I guess my favorite food. I'm very much into Jamaican because of staying in London a lot. So I love Jamaican food. And I do not have any pets.
Love Jamaican food. All right. Before I go to the next set of questions, I'm going to reverse the order now to give Josh a little bit of a break. We're going to go to Leeroy for, I know, sorry, man. So quick shout out, Margaret Daniels from Gus Garcia Young Men's Leadership Academy is with us. So she was been part of our program. So thank you, Margaret, for hopping on. We love your school. So let's go back to some more questions about sort of school and what motivates, what can help motivate students. So what advice do you have for students who are maybe they're struggling with a topic? And I'm sure you all have faced struggles either as students or as professionals or as athletes, right? So Leeroy, you want to take that one and see kind of when you come up against a difficult situation, how do you persevere?
I guess if we're going to talk about it from a class standpoint, especially with IT, I love it, but it can be very difficult, especially when you get into the programming languages and trying to understand and whatnot. But I feel like as long as it's something you love, you can always push through. So let's say, for instance, if you want to exercise, right, and you know you've got a goal, you want to get better. As soon as you push through that little bit of adversity, the next bit of it is going to be a little bit easier. So I say that every single time when you face a bit of struggle and don't know how you're going to get past it, try a little bit harder, because everyone's always got a little bit inside of them that they don't know they have. So I would definitely say that.
Love it. David, you want to take that one?
Sure. I could talk about this for a long time, but I was not someone who took very easily, and school was pretty difficult for me. Just the setup of learn this, memorize it, put it on a test. Just I couldn't do it very well, and I struggled a lot in school, especially high school. And I think that finding my own way to do things, whether it was seeking out alternative learning paths or, just kind of making my own rituals that helped me fit into the mold a little bit, was extremely important for me. And then I would echo what Leeroy said, is that I think in my day-to-day job now, I really love what I do, and it makes the challenges a little less frightening to overcome, and it makes pushing a little bit easier to get that effort to overcome them.
Yeah. Love it. Josh, how about you?
When I get stuck on something, usually it's a programming problem. I will pound at it for a while, maybe a couple hours, a day or so. If it's still not cracking, then I'll generally go for a run, then take a shower. And just between those two activities, it gives my brain a chance to reset, to slow down, kind of think through the problem subconsciously. That will at least give me, if it doesn't solve the problem, it'll at least put me on the right path to that. Like, oh, I could debug it this way, or I could check this thing, and maybe that was the problem. And so usually for me, when I'm stuck on something, is go for a run, take a shower, sleep on it if I need to, and come at it again.
Love it. Yeah, just persist. Great. I want to do another quick shout out. Roxanne Casanova from Rhodes Middle School in San Antonio ISD is also joining us. Thank you so much for being part of this program. So Leeroy, what's the coolest thing about your job?
What is there's so much. I guess the coolest thing is I'm getting more and more love for basketball. I didn't at the beginning, but like definitely dwelling with like kind of the systems that I work with and knowing how they can help, better the players and kind of seeing what David and Josh do on a day to day. I guess you get to see the nitty gritty of stuff, right? You get to see all the analytics and whatnot, and then you get to see the players actually go out there and use the information that they get from my other two colleagues. So I think the best thing about my job is kind of helping other people get to their goals. If someone needs to get their job done quicker, if I can be a help to that, then I definitely think that's one of my most favorite things.
Cool. So helping others. Great. David, what's cool about your job?
Oh man, I'm living my dream job, and I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one aspect, so I'm going to go the overarching theme of I love computers, I love solving problems, and I love basketball. So you put all three of those together, and I'm pretty happy. Day to day, there's some things that are not as great as others, but when I take a step back, I feel extremely fortunate that I feel as passionately about my job as I do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Josh, how about you?
Very similar. I've looked at other jobs, and at the end of the day, I don't get paid to watch basketball in those other jobs. I do here, even though that's not my specific job. I'm not a scout. I am encouraged to watch a lot of basketball, and that's fun and that's great. And yeah, I get to do a bunch of other stuff that my skill set I'm good at, but at the end of the day, I get to watch basketball. It's great.
Josh, you should tell the story of your wedding, your basketball wedding interaction.
I love basketball so much that instead of we reorganized my wedding such that it was in the middle of the day, so we could play pickup basketball instead of dancing, because I hate dancing. I love basketball. We could pick up at my wedding. It was great.
Wow. I have never heard anything like that. That is pretty awesome.
We also played ultimate frisbee because my wife wanted to do that, so I didn't leave her out. Don't worry.
Oh, okay, so each of you got to pick one thing.
Yes.
That's a sign of a good partnership right there. So there's no first dance. There's no cake cutting. It's more like a tip on,
There was cake, but yeah, there was no first dance or any of that stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's original. I love it. I love stories like that. Leeroy, tell us a story. What's the difference between a Hotspur and a Spur?
So when you think about the Spurs, well, luckily I haven't made the mistake yet, but I should be fine now, right? But the Spurs, obviously the basketball team, and a Hotspur is the team in the English Premier League, Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yeah. So different sport, different continent, different mascot. Right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The mascot here is definitely more animated than the one in England for sure.
What is the mascot for Hotspurs?
I'm sure it's a bird. It's a bird.
Oh yeah, it's like a rooster looking.
Yeah, like I'm not sure the exact one, but I'm sure it's one kind of a bird.
Yeah. Got it. And by the way, Josh and David, I don't know if you know this about Leeroy, but he has not watched Ted Lasso. So I don't know if you guys have, and you would recommend it. No, Josh hasn't watched it. David, what are your thoughts? What's your analysis on Ted Lasso?
I really enjoyed it, but seeing as Leeroy is so legitimate and from it, he might not have he might see the faults in it a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, I'm a little afraid of recommending it to Leroy because it's American humor. It's not British humor, and I understand those are very different from each other.
Two different things. To be honest, I've heard that the Office for US is different for Office in the UK in terms of humor wise. So I've definitely been advised by many people to watch Ted Lasso, but I'm dancing on the line right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well, let's talk about television shows. What sort of age appropriate television shows would you care to tell us about that you enjoy watching? Leroy, you want to go?
Age appropriate. What do I watch? I think I'm more so like the younger kind right now. I'm just on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I think the days of like TV are kind of slowly fading, but it's mostly just YouTube, and I enjoy podcasts. I watch a lot of that.
Oh, good. Excellent. David, how about you? You a television guy, streaming guy, podcast?
We did. My girlfriend and I did just finish up Ted Lasso. I do appreciate that she humors me in watching some form of basketball pretty much every night. That's mostly my TV. I'm also a very passionate baker, so I do love the Great British Bake Off. Age appropriate for everybody.
Yeah, that's safe. That's a safe one. Good. Josh, how about you?
We don't watch a whole lot of TV. We watch basketball almost every night, and then when we can on like off nights, we'll probably watch something with my kids. So usually the Disney Plus, Star Wars, the whole thing we're working through. So.
Oh yeah, Mandalorian and
Clone Wars and
yep.
the whole kit and caboodle. Takes a while.
Love it. All right, so let's shift a little bit, and I don't want you to thinking about your jobs that you currently have. I want you to think about if you weren't doing this job, what profession or what job would you be doing in sort of in an alternate world if you weren't doing the job you have now? I can tell you mine would be, I would probably be a starving comedian in Fort Lauderdale, right? That's probably what the alternate world looks like for me. But Leroy, what would you be doing?
Oh, this is I'll probably go back to being a professional soccer player, to be honest.
Nice.
Yeah.
What position do you play, by the way?
I'm center midfield.
Center midfield.
So in the middle of the field, yeah.
Yeah. In all the, you're playing defense and offense.
Yeah, got to do both. You can't play one anymore.
Yeah. Excellent. David, how about you in this alternate world? What's it look like for you?
I mentioned before that I like computers and I like solving problems, and I would probably substitute the basketball with something I'm a little less excited to work with. I have a soft spot for voter empowerment. So I do a little work on the side, doing some data research and analysis for a group doing voter empowerment, especially in the Northeast, but all over. So I guess I would pivot into that sphere.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. How about you, Jeff?
I'd probably go back to my human rights days. So I spent 7 years doing human rights reporting in the war zones of Burma. So I would probably go back and do something similar. Ukraine seems to be the hot spot right now. So.
Wow, I really lost that one between the three of us, huh?
It's not a competition, you know. Yeah. Everybody's got their own deal. Yeah, I love it. Oh, that's deep. I mean, I love it. That's fantastic. So we got a question here from Joy De La Rosa. Leroy, you talk about podcasts. Are there some that you want to give a shout out to that you think would be worthwhile learning more about?
I think one that I've been watching a lot is an American one. It's called I Am Athlete. I think it's more so driven for more like a basketball and an American football side. But I also have my own podcast. If anyone wants to watch that, it's called The Insight. So I interview my other professional friends, the ones that play in the Premier League and ones that play over in the MLS as well. So if you want to watch that, check it out on YouTube and all the streaming websites as well.
Tell us again. It's The Insight?
Yeah, The Insight Pod.
The Insight Pod.
Pod. P-O-D, yeah.
Okay. We're going to check that out. We're going to certainly blast it out to our network and give you shout outs. That's great. Thank you for telling us about that.
No problem.
So how about for David or Josh, like favorite movie or book?
I'll go on the podcast train too, just because
Oh, yeah.
I have a favorite one that I think is pretty accessible to everyone. It's called 99% Invisible. It's it talks about functional design in our world, things that just work and we probably haven't ever thought about or noticed, but it takes these deep dives into kind of thoughtful design aspects of our world that make a lot of sense, but probably are not appreciated because they work so well.
I love that. Can you say a little bit more about maybe some STEM connections to the types of things that are talked about in that podcast? Like maybe engineering?
Sure. They talk a lot about, this is kind of a running joke on the podcast, but roofs like on houses and buildings, and the pitch of roofs and how that has become such a controversial and at times over-engineered process in terms of these gigantic buildings that are being built, whether it's skyscrapers or convention centers or apartment buildings or homes, and how the pitch and angle of the roof is so important for heat retention and bird deterrence and rain disposal and the upcoming wave of solar panels and how that's going to fit into the pitch and the type of roof you have. So it's a little nuanced in terms of its STEM connections, but I think that it's important for myself and maybe other people to see that there have been really intelligent and thoughtful decisions made about everything, and that you can impact design and kind of how it is implemented in our day-to-day lives in very subtle yet meaningful ways.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because I don't never think of the roof.
Yeah, me neither until I heard that.
Yeah. But there is, I mean, the pitch is an angle. So there's geometry there, right?
There's geometry there, and there's a lot of geometry and physics in terms of how the rain comes off of that and where your leaves are going to get stuck, and whether or not you can mount something on it for future use. It's very math driven, but also has to be aesthetic in a way that people want to look at it too. So there's Josh Ryan knows probably the most about that of anyone I know of, conveying information while making it aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So Josh, I want to give you a chance on the podcast, book, or movie question.
For podcasts, I only really listen to one, just the Low Post. It's a basketball focused one, pretty analytics heavy, or pretty deep dive heavy, I should say. He does a lot of scouting, but that's a good one. For books, I'm gonna go very pretentious and go. My favorite is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. No relation to STEM necessarily, but unless you want philosophy as a STEM field, but that's my favorite.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so final question, round robin again, and it relates to just kind of putting everything together in terms of being a lifelong learner. So if I was to tell you what is it about being a lifelong learner or what does that mean to you to be a lifelong learner? And how would you convey that to students as a sort of piece of advice? Leeroy, you want to take it? Lifelong learner.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll take it. I guess my dad always tells me that once you stop learning, you're dead. And I never used to really understand it whilst I was younger. But now I know that being in like a STEM program driven job, that there's always new stuff coming out. Like there's always a new thing tomorrow that we need to learn and kind of like learn how to use and maybe like push on and kind of be proactive about what's coming next, right? So that's kind of how I take it, and I kind of add my professional like football side into my work as well. My job when I played, I always wanted to be the best. And like I take that the same into my job as well. I want to be the best, but I always want to be growing because I know if I grow and I learn more, then I'm gonna get better. So between them two things, those are things that I would definitely advise like younger people to continue to strive to be better each and every day. Even that small 1%, once you come up to the end of the year, you'll see it's 100% and you're in a better place than you were when you first started.
Love it. David, what does it mean to you to be a lifelong learner?
Yeah, I think that most of us in our daily lives are presented with challenges, and we know the outcome we want from those challenges. And for me, it's adapting the ways that I think about achieving those outcomes, whether it's in a programming language or in a basketball sense. You might already have the tools, or you might need to acquire some new tools to figure out that outcome or the answer to that question you've been asked to solve. And I think that being open and flexible to new ideas and new perspectives and different perspectives is probably the most important thing that I can do in order to keep learning and keep growing. I think I work with a lot of people who have a very different background than I do in terms of their perspective on life and their perspective on education and their profession in general. And I've learned so much from that, and I hope that continues.
Awesome. Josh, lifelong learner.
I would break it into two sections. There's individual problems where it's a problem you don't actually have the answer yet. So you're learning about that specific problem. Generally, the problems are in your specific field. It may take you a day, may take you a week, month, whatever, but you've kind of got a handle on the general scope of the problem. And then you learn about it, you identify the problem, and hope fix it or do whatever needs to be done about that. That one's not really too interesting to me because most people can do that, whatever their specific field is. What's more interesting to me from a philosophical standpoint is the larger problems or the larger learning about things that aren't within your skill set. Whether that's you don't know how to ride a bike, so you learn how to ride a bike. You don't know that language, so you go learn Spanish or Thai or whatever. You don't know anything about philosophy, so you want to do that. That's a good one because, for example, if you do that and you're in my position, you learn about philosophy. You learn about logic, the rules of logic. The rules of logic come extremely handy in programming. So you can make these connections that you didn't know were there, and you can help your current job or your current lifestyle, whatever you are currently. You can expand that by learning about huge different fields that you didn't know much about, and maybe that they do have relevance to your current state of affairs.
Love it. Oh, this is all wonderful. So I think if I could paraphrase for you all, the overall advice is keep learning because it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better scientist, engineer, student, employee, collaborator, problem solver, etc. So if you all agree with that, nod your heads up and down for me. Wonderful. Okay. Well, folks, I want to thank you again for being part of this panel. Josh Ryan, David Kaplan, Leeroy Maguraushe, thank you so much for being part of this. And thank you also to Spurs Give, the Spurs, and for Frostbank for providing the funding and the infrastructure to have an impact on San Antonio schools and Austin schools. So thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and be safe. Have a good one out there. Bye-bye.